She banned me from her wedding. No explanation. No invite. Just silence. So I vanished. Took a flight. Disappeared. Days later, her perfect day exploded. Chaos. Betrayal. A public breakdown. And while everyone asked why it happened, only I knew the truth. So, I 34M got excluded from my younger sister's wedding. Not like, oh hey we're keeping it small, sorry, kind of excluded. I mean blacklisted. Cold-shouldered. Left off the invite list entirely like I was some stranger from a bad memory. And yeah, I know this sounds petty, but it's not just about the invite. This was about years of her harboring resentment because I dared to succeed. Let's rewind. My sister, Sarah, 32F, and I used to be close when we were kids. Backyard adventures, arguing over who got the bigger slice of pizza, the usual sibling chaos. But things changed after college. She struggled financially, bounced between jobs, and ended up living with my parents again in her late 20s. Meanwhile, I'd built a successful tech business, got into real estate, and was living pretty comfortably. I never rubbed it in. I don't wear flashy stuff, don't post yacht selfies, nothing like that. But Sarah started seeing my success as an insult. Every time I came around, she had a comment. Must be nice to have time for vacations. Oh, look who just happened to bring his Tesla again. Not everyone gets lucky, Jake. She'd say these things with a laugh, but it was never really funny. Fast forward to last year. She got engaged to her boyfriend Tyler. Decent enough guy. Quiet, maybe a little spineless, but not terrible. I figured, despite our strained relationship, I'd at least be invited to the wedding. I mean, I'm her only sibling. We shared bunk beds for a decade. Wrong. I found out about the wedding not from her, not from my parents, but from my freaking barber. No joke. The guy cuts Tyler's hair too, and he asked me if I was excited for the big weekend in August. Cue the record scratch in my brain. I texted my mom, is Sarah getting married? She replied, yes, but she thought it would be too awkward to invite you. It's her day, she wants it drama-free. Please understand. Drama-free? From me? I was stunned. I hadn't even fought with her. I never even brought up her jabs. I was the calm one, always trying to play it cool. But apparently my existence was dramatic enough to get cut. So, I didn't beg. I didn't call. I didn't cause a scene. I booked a vacation. First-class ticket to Turks and Caicos, penthouse suite, full spa access, no apologies. I even posted a picture of me sipping a cocktail on the beach with the caption. When you're not invited to the drama but still RSVP to peace. Yeah, a little petty. But I was hurt, and I deserved a little petty. Here's where it gets juicy. 3 days into my vacation, I get a call from my cousin Amanda, who was at the wedding. She starts with, dude, you're not gonna believe what just happened. Turns out the wedding blew up. Imploded. A full Greek tragedy with better catering. Apparently, Sarah's maid of honor, her longtime bestie Chloe, stood up during the toasts and nuked the entire event. And I mean nuked. Called Sarah out for years of manipulative behavior, accused her of stealing from her ex, and then dropped the surprise. Chloe had been sleeping with Tyler. For months. I almost choked on my rum punch. Apparently, Tyler stood there, deer in headlights, while Sarah screamed and threw her bouquet at his face. He didn't deny it. He just mumbled, it just happened, okay? Guests were screaming. My aunt passed out. Someone's dress caught fire, I still don't know how, but it happened. Cops were called when Tyler's brother punched the DJ who had nothing to do with it. Amanda said, you dodged a bullet not being there. I replied, nah. I dodged a bazooka. Now here's where things go from karma to chef's kiss. A few days later, I get a message from Sarah. First one in months. Hey, can we talk? No apology. No explanation. Just that. I ignored it. She called the next day, crying on voicemail, saying she had no one, that she wished I had been there because maybe I could have stopped it. Girl, you uninvited me. You didn't even tell me. And now I'm supposed to swoop in like some emotional fireman? Nope. So after the wedding went full soap opera meltdown, I was soaking in the post-margarita glow of my Caribbean retreat, trying not to laugh out loud every time Amanda sent me a new update. And believe me, there were updates. Apparently, Chloe, maid of honor / homewrecker, didn't just out the affair during her toast, she showed everyone the receipts. Literal screenshots of their messages, some photos, and one very compromising video that she accidentally airdropped to multiple guests during the chaos. I mean, if you're going to detonate a wedding, do it with style. The aftermath? Tyler moved out 2 days later. Chloe vanished into the ether. Sarah went full nuclear on everyone, including our parents, accusing them of not warning her like they knew Chloe was gonna pull a TED Talk on betrayal. And me? I was backstroking in a saltwater pool while listening to ambient jazz. But then came the text. Jake, I need your help. Please. I'm sorry. I won't lie, I stared at that for a while. Sarah hadn't apologized for years. Not for the snide remarks. Not for the condescending attitude. Not for disinviting me from her wedding like I was an embarrassing cousin who drinks too much and hits on the bride. But suddenly, now that her life resembled a slow-motion car crash, I was relevant again. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Instead, I quietly sent flowers to our mom with a card that read, "Hope the wedding was unforgettable. Turks and caicos was lovely. Jake? Petty? Maybe. Therapeutic? Absolutely. Now let me tell you something about me. I'm a calm man, sure. But calm doesn't mean passive. Growing up, I learned something critical: revenge is best when it's not loud. It's surgical. So I decided to make my next move. See, I own a few properties. One of them? A luxury condo downtown that I usually lease to high-end execs or foreign clients on short-term contracts. But it was sitting empty at the moment, freshly renovated, beautiful view of the river. I posted a photo of it on Instagram. Just a casual story captioned, "Back in the city. Thinking of moving in here for a bit. Feels like home." Within the hour, Sarah viewed the story. Twice. Then liked it. Then sent another text. "Are you really back? I could use a place to stay while I figure things out." That's when I realized she wasn't just crawling back emotionally. She was homeless. Apparently, the lease she and Tyler signed was up at the end of the month. He'd already moved out and transferred the utilities to his name, kicked her off the joint account, and blocked her on everything except Venmo because he's not a monster, I guess. So she needed a place to stay. And she knew I had a few. Now remember, I hadn't said a single mean thing to her throughout this. Not one insult. I hadn't gloated. I hadn't rubbed her nose in it. But what I did next? That's when the calm broke. I texted her back. "Hey Sarah. I think I might be able to help. Come by the condo tomorrow. Let's talk in person." She showed up 10 minutes early. No makeup, puffy eyes, clearly hadn't slept much. She tried to act casual, but I could see it, she was desperate. I opened the door, and for a moment we just looked at each other. "Jake," she said, soft and unsure. I nodded and gestured inside. "Come on. Let's talk." She stepped in, looking around. "Wow, this place is gorgeous." I just smiled. "Glad you think so. It's available." Her eyes lit up. "Seriously?" "Yep. But there's a catch." She paused. "What kind of catch?" And this is where I laid it out. I told her I'd let her stay for 1 month. Rent-free. No strings. But she had to do one thing first. Write a public apology. Not to the world. Not to Instagram. Just to me. I wanted her to post on her Facebook where our whole extended family, friends, and wedding guests could see a brief message acknowledging how she treated me, how she excluded me, and that it was wrong. That was the price. She looked at me like I'd asked her to donate a kidney. That's humiliating. I tilted my head. More humiliating than being cheated on at your own wedding? Publicly? In front of your great-aunt Carol, who still thinks dial-up is cutting edge. She flushed. "Jake, come on. You're not actually going to make me. I'm not making you do anything. You're free to go. The door's right there. But if you want this condo, you post the apology. Just 3 sentences. Your call." And I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of wine. She stood there for a long time. Silent. Then, without another word, she walked out. No door slam. No screaming. Just silence. I thought that was the end of it. Until the next morning, when I opened Facebook. There it was. I made a mistake. I let jealousy cloud my judgment and hurt someone who has always been there for me. "Jake, I'm sorry for how I treated you and you didn't deserve it." 3 sentences. Simple. No dramatic flourish. But the comment section? Oh boy. Fireworks. Cousins jumping in like, "Wait, is this about the wedding?" People posting shocked emojis. A few mutual friends of hers clearly knew the full story and started subtweeting in the comments. She tried to play it cool, but the internet never forgets. An hour later, she texted me. "Condo still available?" I replied. "He's under the mat. 1 month." But what she didn't know was, I already had plans for what came after that month. You see, you can forgive. You can even help. But you never forget. After Sarah posted that apology, took the bait, and moved into my condo, I didn't hear from her for about a week. Not a thank you. Not a check-in. Just silence. Typical. I figured she was licking her wounds, playing victim to whatever friends hadn't fled the fallout. I let her have her space. Let her think I was being gracious, even kind. But here's the thing. My kindness always comes with an asterisk. Let me rewind a little and fill in some blanks. Right after the wedding disaster, Tyler, the now ex-fiancé, reached out to me. Yeah. The same guy who cheated on my sister with her maid of honor, then ghosted like a toddler hiding under a blanket. He sent a message that said, and I quote, "Hey man, I know we've never really talked, but I owe you a beer or something. You dodged a serious meltdown by missing that wedding. I didn't know she cut you out. That was cold." He then offered to meet up, no hard feelings, and even joked about how she probably blames everyone but herself. I didn't respond at the time. I wasn't about to grab drinks with the guy who torched my sister's life, regardless of how justified it felt. But I kept the message for later. So back to the condo. She was staying there like it was her personal sanctuary, posting little healing journey stories on IG, pics of her latte art and candles, captions like, "Sometimes you need to lose everything to find peace." Peace, huh? You mean losing everything because you blew it up yourself? But then she crossed a line. One afternoon, I went by the condo to pick up a package that had been mistakenly delivered there. I knocked, waited, nothing. I had a key, so I let myself in. What I walked into, Sarah was hosting a little girls' brunch. There were mimosas, a charcuterie board, a bad one, might I add, and 3 of her wedding guests who definitely saw me get publicly excluded. They all stared at me like I was a ghost. "Oh," Sarah said, all fake surprised. "Jake, didn't know you were coming by." "Yeah, I knocked," I replied, holding up the package. "Just grabbing this." One of her friends muttered, "I thought you weren't speaking to him?" Another said under her breath, "Didn't he, ditch the wedding on purpose?" I smiled. "Nope, I wasn't invited." But Turks and Caicos was a blast. Awkward silence. I left without another word. But now I was pissed. You see, she wasn't humbling herself. She was spinning a new narrative, making it sound like she had cut ties with me, like she was the victim in all of this, and I was some rich, aloof brother who didn't care. She forgot one thing. I don't start fires. I finish them. So I set my plan into motion. Not loud. Not messy. Just surgical. First, I reached out to Tyler. I figured if Sarah was so busy rewriting the story, maybe it was time to correct the record. We met at a coffee shop, and the guy was as awkward as ever. Nervous, sheepish, probably thinking I was going to punch him in the jaw or something. But I didn't care about him personally. I cared about leverage. I asked him, "Why'd you do it? With Chloe, of all people?" He shrugged. "It was stupid. She just listened, you know? Sarah always made me feel like I was failing her, like I wasn't enough. Chloe kind of validated that. I'm not proud of it." I nodded. "Fair. And the wedding thing, was Chloe planning that toast? Or did she go rogue?" He looked stunned. "She planned it. Said she couldn't let Sarah walk into a marriage based on lies. That she loved me enough to be honest." I stared at him for a long second. "You know you were both trash for that, right?" He nodded like a kid caught cheating on a quiz. Anyway, before I left, I got what I came for. A few screenshots of their texts, with Chloe clearly discussing the plan to expose the affair. I now had documented proof that Sarah's humiliation wasn't an accident. It was scheduled. I didn't send it to Sarah yet. Next, I called our cousin Amanda, the same one who originally called me during the wedding implosion. She works in PR, and I asked her a simple question. What would happen if someone tried to spin their failed wedding into a brand? She laughed for 10 straight minutes. Turns out Sarah had been trying to start a healing after heartbreak coaching business. Yeah, you heard me. My sister, who literally just got publicly cheated on, was posting on TikTok about relationship resilience, red flag recognition, and building your goddess core. Goddess core. Amanda found the website Sarah had half built on Wix. It had one photo and a PayPal button. So I asked Amanda, hypothetically, what would happen if someone dropped real screenshots of the actual wedding drama into the comments of these posts? She smiled. That would be informative. The final move? The condo. At the end of her 30-day stay, I gave her 3 days' notice. Legally, I was fine. I never gave her a lease. It was a courtesy arrangement. I sent her a text. "Hey Sarah, hope you're doing okay. Just a heads up, your 30 days are up this Saturday. Please have everything packed by then. She replied. Wait. I thought I could stay longer. Nope. 1 month. That was the deal. But I'm still trying to get back on my feet. Then maybe it's time to learn how to stand. She was furious. Sent a long paragraph about how I was unforgiving, cold, and taking advantage of her lowest moment. I replied with just 3 words. So did you? Saturday came and she left. I gave her a week. Then I sent her the screenshots from Tyler and Chloe. And the Wix link. And the message. Might want to rethink the coaching business. Looks like people already know the story. That was 2 weeks ago. She hasn't posted since. After Sarah moved into my condo, my generous, rent-free, luxury condo, I gave her space. I didn't drop by unannounced, didn't micromanage. I let her think I was the bigger person, giving her a soft place to land after the wedding apocalypse. She was quiet for a while, but not because she was reflecting or healing. Oh no, she was rebranding. See, my sister has this talent for self-pity. Like, Olympic-level gold medal victimhood. And after torching every bridge at her wedding, she didn't rebuild. She started spinning a new story. And somehow she made herself the protagonist. Sarah started posting on Instagram moody selfies, cryptic captions, pastel-tinged quotes about betrayal and growth. Stuff like, sometimes the people closest to you betray you the most. But we rise. Cutting off toxicity. Protecting my peace. Trust was broken. Lessons were learned. A few were clearly aimed at me. One in particular said, never confuse silence for weakness. Some people let karma do the talking. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my phone. Karma? Sarah invited karma to the wedding, gave it a microphone, and let it freestyle roast her in front of 150 guests. But the thing that got me? She started a damn life coaching brand. Yes. Really. My sister, freshly humiliated and barely emotionally literate on a good day, was launching something called the Phoenix Process. Supposedly, it was about empowering women to rise from heartbreak. She even had the nerve to write in her bio. Former bride. Future healer. I nearly choked on my coffee. She started teasing a podcast. She wrote blog posts about emotional resilience and how to protect your heart from narcissists, this from the woman who once screamed at a waitress because her mimosa didn't come with enough pulp. But here's where it went from eye roll to jaw drop. One of her blog posts? It mentioned me. Not by name, but come on. She wrote about her toxic older sibling who made everything about money and refused to show up during the hardest time in her life. Oh, you mean the brother who wasn't invited? The brother who offered you a luxury condo when your life fell apart? The one who paid for your therapy sessions last year when you had a breakdown over a parking ticket? I was livid. But again, I didn't respond. I didn't blow up her phone. I didn't call our mom and vent. I waited. Patience is the underrated spice of revenge. Let me tell you what I did instead. I reached out to someone I hadn't talked to in a while, Tyler. Yeah, that Tyler. The ex-fiancé. You see, I never blamed him for what happened at the wedding. I mean, I didn't respect the guy, but he wasn't the only villain in that saga. He was just another weak player in Sarah's drama tornado. But more importantly, he had receipts. And I was in the mood to collect. We met for drinks at a quiet rooftop bar. He looked like a man who'd survived a hurricane. I didn't know she didn't invite you, he said after we'd settled in. I just assumed you backed out. Nope, I said, sipping my drink. She cut me out. Completely. He shook his head. That's insane. You're like the most normal person in that whole family. And then he handed me the real gift, screenshots. Dozens of them. Texts between him and Sarah. Texts between Sarah and Chloe. All confirming that the wedding implosion wasn't just a spontaneous mess, it was a long-simmering volcano. Turns out Chloe didn't go rogue. She warned Sarah. Yep. Sarah knew about the affair. Weeks before the wedding. She just thought she could fix Tyler in time. She tried to guilt him into staying, begged Chloe to back off, and when neither of them did, she told them. If you're going to ruin this, then do it. I'll make you both look like trash. I'll be the victim either way. She planned the implosion. She wanted it public. Her plan? Milk it. Which explained the Instagram. The life coach act. The Phoenix Process. She wasn't recovering. She was cashing in. So I waited. Let her keep posting. Let her go on a podcast or two. Let her tell the story of how the people she trusted the most left her in pieces. And then, I made my move. I created a little website. It was simple. Clean. Anonymous. A little bio page. No names. Just screenshots. Texts. Timelines. Photos. The full and censored version of Sarah's wedding story, from the affair to the fake apology to her new victim branding. I didn't advertise it. I just emailed it quietly to every single podcast, blogger, and collaborator she'd been tagging. No threats. No demands. Just facts. Within 48 hours, 3 of her podcast invites disappeared. One posted a vague story about verifying stories before giving people platforms. She posted a story about haters trying to dim your light, then deleted it the next day. And the best part? A week later, she messaged me. Did you make that site? I didn't reply. You're sabotaging me. I was finally getting somewhere. Still didn't reply. I apologized, Jake. What more do you want? Now that made me laugh. She thought this was about an apology? No. This was about a reckoning. You can't burn every bridge and then cry about being stranded. I dropped the metaphorical dossier of Sarah's dirty laundry on her would-be influencer career. Things got quiet. Suspiciously quiet. She disappeared from socials for a bit. Canceled the soft launch of her Phoenix Process life coaching business. I checked. The domain was eventually taken down. R.I.P. to the Goddess Core movement. I figured she was licking her wounds, maybe finally learning something. Oh, you sweet summer child, Jake. Instead, she was planning her final move. A family intervention. Yep. She tried to stage a full-blown, tear-filled gaslight and guilt intervention. For me, it started with a weird text from my Aunt Denise. Now, Denise is old school. Think still writes checks for groceries and doesn't believe in microwaves, old school. But she's harmless. Her message said, "Hi honey. Just wanted to say we love you no matter what anyone says. We all make mistakes. Don't push people away forever." I blinked at my phone like it had sprouted horns. Then came another message. From my cousin Leo. Heard some things from Sarah. Just wanted to say I hope you're okay, man. You know we're here for you. Ah, there it is. The smear campaign. Turns out Sarah had spent the last 2 weeks going family member to family member, painting this picture of me as bitter, vengeful, and obsessed with ruining her life. She claimed I'd hacked her private messages, publicly humiliated her, and used my wealth to manipulate her situation. She left out the part where she uninvited me from her wedding, lied about me online, and moved into my place like a broke Disney villain. Classic Sarah, toss the match, then scream about the fire. But here's the thing about our family. They're not dumb. Just easily swayed. Most of them believed her at first because she's always had a talent for crying on cue and blaming someone else while clutching a wine glass. But they also remember who showed up, who helped pay off grandma's medical bills, who flew across the country to fix Uncle Pete's busted plumbing last year, who never asked for praise, just did what needed doing. Me. And Sarah? Sarah had a track record of showing up late after she was in a bar or not at all. So instead of fighting the fire she started, I poured gasoline on it. A week later, my parents called. Now let me pause here, my parents are not evil. They're just tired. In their 60s, suburban retirement, golf and garden people. But they've always had this misguided urge to keep the peace, which in our family usually translates to let Sarah get away with murder if it keeps her from crying. Dad opened the call. Jake, can we just talk? I kept it cool. We are talking. She's upset. Really upset. She told us everything. Everything? Like how she lied about me. Or the part where she cheated on herself at her own wedding. Long silence. Mom chimed in. She said you exposed her. That you humiliated her publicly. That you weaponized your success. Now that got a laugh out of me. Weaponized my success? What does that even mean? I lent her a condo. I paid for her therapy. I stayed quiet when she blasted me online. And now I'm the bad guy? Dad cleared his throat. You're not the bad guy, son. But maybe we can de-escalate. No, Dad. She made her bed. And now she's trying to set it on fire because she doesn't like the thread count. Mom sighed. We just want the family to stay together. And that's when I dropped the hammer. Then maybe talk to the person who burned it apart in the first place. Because if Sarah wanted unity, she wouldn't have uninvited her only brother from her wedding like I was a door-to-door salesman. I hung up after that. But I wasn't done. Because here's where it gets juicy. Remember my old college friend Ethan? Probably not, since I haven't mentioned him yet. But Ethan's a software engineer now big into cybersecurity and digital forensics. We reconnected after he saw my vacation post and asked if I was finally done being the responsible brother. I told him everything. And Ethan? He offered me a little gift. Turns out, that website I made, Phoenix Fallout, the one that anonymously published the truth, he offered to trace the traffic and show me exactly who had visited, from where, and how many times. Over 3,200 views. Sarah? She visited it 97 times, including one stretch where she refreshed the page 13 times in 8 minutes. So yeah, she knew. She was obsessed. I had Ethan help me clean it all up, archive the whole thing, preserve the logs, timestamp everything. Just in case. Because when you're dealing with someone who lies professionally, you keep the receipts. The final straw? She tried to sue me. I came home one day to a letter from some local law office with her name on the return address. Cease and desist. Claimed I had defamed her character, used her personal data without permission, and intentionally sabotaged her livelihood. It was all fluff. No teeth. Her lawyer, probably a friend or someone from Reddit, hadn't even spelled my last name right. So I did what any calm, vengeful man would do. I mailed back a copy of the screenshots Tyler gave me. Every single one. With a sticky note that said, "Defamation only applies if it's false. Enjoy your weekend." Since then? Nothing. Radio silence. The family started drifting back. I didn't apologize. I didn't explain. I didn't have to. Sarah's web of stories collapsed under its own weight. And me? I'm doing just fine. Better than fine, honestly. Because sometimes the best revenge is no revenge at all. Just the truth with a little spotlight and a gentle breeze. Where were we? Oh, right. Sarah tried to sue me. She failed, of course. Her cease and desist fizzled out like a wet firework, and once I sent back the evidence, text logs, screenshots, site analytics, she vanished faster than her podcast dreams. But that wasn't the ending. That was just the credits rolling on her story. Mine? Mine was just getting better. The funny thing about being underestimated your whole life, by family, no less, is that when you finally stop playing nice, people don't know what to do with you. They expect you to stay quiet. To stay convenient. I was neither anymore. And apparently that made me dangerous. Let's talk about my parents. After the whole ordeal, my dad started calling more often. Not to push me. Just to talk. I think something shifted in him. Maybe he realized that keeping the peace by catering to chaos wasn't noble, it was lazy. He didn't exactly apologize, but he did ask questions. Like, when did all this really start? I told him, when you let her treat me like I owed her for breathing. Silence. Then, I should have paid more attention. It wasn't a clean fix. It never is with family. But it was something. And that something grew. My mom, surprisingly, came around faster. She dropped the guilt trips, stopped trying to mediate. One day she called me just to say, "I'm proud of you." I think I sat there holding the phone in stunned silence for a solid 10 seconds before I could answer. That's the thing about being the reliable one. The calm one. The stable sibling. Everyone forgets you have limits until you hit them. And when I hit mine, I didn't burn the house down. I renovated it without them. A few months after the chaos, I bought a new property. Not just any property, the property. A mountain cabin I used to visit as a kid, back when family road trips still meant something. It had gone up for sale quietly, and I scooped it up the moment I saw the listing. It was old, but solid. Needed work. I like that. Building something new from something broken? That felt right. I didn't tell anyone at first. I just drove up there every other weekend, tools in the back of my truck, music on, working in silence. Replacing old wood. Resealing windows. Painting beams in deep oak and burnt cinnamon. By the time summer rolled around, it looked like something out of a travel magazine. I posted one photo on Instagram. Just one. A porch view with the sunset bleeding gold through the trees. Captioned, "Peace is what you build when you stop waiting for permission." 2 hours later? Sarah viewed the story. 3 times. No message. No call. Just saw it. Good. Let her. The real closure came not from confrontation, but from clarity. I stopped trying to be the good brother. The forgiving son. The family glue. Instead, I became the version of myself that was always buried under guilt and obligation. The version that doesn't apologize for peace. The version that doesn't flinch at distance. The version that says no without a follow-up explanation. And wouldn't you know it? The world didn't fall apart. My phone didn't explode. My heart didn't break. In fact, things got better. I started sleeping better. Laughing more. Cooking meals instead of stress snacking. Even reconnected with an old friend from college, Jess. We started grabbing dinner, hiking, eventually dating. Slowly. Honestly. She told me once, "You don't talk much about your sister." I smiled and said, "That's because she's not part of my story anymore." And Sarah? Well, last I heard, she moved out of state. Some small town with yoga studios and vegan bakeries and exactly the kind of spiritual Instagram bait she eats up. She posted once about starting fresh. New chapter. She blocked me not long after. I guess being called out publicly doesn't jive well with personal brands. No hard feelings. Honestly, I hope she finds something real. I hope she stops seeing every burnt bridge as a conspiracy against her. I hope she grows. But that's her path now. I've got mine. And mine? It's a winding road through the woods up to a cabin I rebuilt with my own 2 hands, where peace isn't just a word, it's the sound of wind through pine trees and coffee on a cold morning. No drama. No fake apologies. Just quiet. And if you ask me, that's the best kind of revenge.